Behind the rhinestones, the glamorous gowns, and the sweet melodies of old country music, there were women whose private lives stirred more whispers than their songs ever did. These were the bold, rebellious, and passionate figures who defied tradition and lived by their own rules. In this video, we uncover the 12 most promiscuous women of old country music, stories of love affairs, scandal, and the untold truth behind Nashville's brightest stars. Tanya Tucker, the wild child of country music. When Tanya Tucker burst onto the country music scene in the early 1970s with her hit Delta Dawn, she was barely a teenager. Yet from the start, she carried herself with a maturity and fire that defied her age. By her late teens, Tanya wasn't just a rising star. She was already a living scandal, known as much for her wild lifestyle and headline-grabbing romances as for her powerful, husky voice. Nashville had never seen a young woman so unafraid to push boundaries. Her music was bold, but her personal life was even bolder. Tanya openly dated some of the most famous men of her era, from rock legends to fellow country singers. Perhaps the most notorious was her stormy relationship with Glen Campbell. Their romance, marked by passion, public fights, and heavy tabloid coverage, made Tanya a constant presence in gossip columns. For many conservative fans, it was shocking to see a country girl behaving like a Hollywood rebel, but Tanya thrived on that image. She wore tight, glamorous outfits, spoke her mind without hesitation, and lived fast, earning the nickname Country's Bad Girl. Tanya's list of rumored romances was long, including names from both inside and outside the music industry. She was unapologetic, often laughing off the whispers and using the attention to fuel her stardom. While many female artists in the 1970s were expected to project wholesomeness, Tanya embraced her rebellious streak. It wasn't unusual to see her on stage with a drink in hand, singing songs that mirrored her untamed lifestyle. For her, the music and the chaos of her personal life were inseparable. Despite the controversies, Tanya Tucker's career endured. Her fans admired her honesty and the raw emotion she brought to every performance. Over the years, she weathered scandals, personal struggles, and industry backlash, but she always returned to the stage with the same fearless spirit. Today, Tanya is remembered not only as one of the most talented voices in country music, but also as a woman who refused to let Nashville, or anyone else, define how she should live. Her legacy remains a mix of brilliance and notoriety, a reminder that sometimes the most unforgettable stars are the ones who break all the rules. Tammy Wynette, the first lady of country music. Few figures in country music are as iconic or as controversial as Tammy Wynette. Crowned the first lady of country music, she gave the world timeless classics like Stand By Your Man, a song that became both her signature and a lightning rod for debate about women's roles. But beyond the spotlight, Tammy's personal life was a whirlwind of passion, scandal, and heartbreak that made her one of the most talked about women in Nashville. Tammy's rise to fame in the 1960s and 70s was meteoric, but her private life was even more dramatic than her lyrics. She married 5 times, each union drawing its share of headlines. Her marriage to fellow superstar George Jones was perhaps the most infamous. Their turbulent relationship, filled with love, violence, addiction, and public breakups, became fodder for endless gossip. Nashville insiders whispered about Tammy's affairs and rumored dalliances, while the tabloids painted her as both a victim and a temptress. Even outside of her marriage to Jones, Tammy's romantic history was colorful. She had a string of high-profile relationships, and her frequent trips down the aisle became a running joke in the country press. To her critics, Tammy seemed reckless with love. To her fans, she was simply a woman unafraid to pursue passion, no matter the cost. The drama surrounding her life only added layers of intrigue to her songs about heartbreak and survival, making her music feel even more authentic. But her private struggles went far beyond romance. Tammy battled illness, addiction to painkillers, and a constant need for validation from those around her. Some say she used relationships as a way to fill the void left by her turbulent upbringing and grueling career demands. Whatever the truth, Tammy's vulnerability and boldness made her both beloved and scandalized in equal measure. In the end, Tammy Wynette's story is one of contrasts. A woman who sang about loyalty while living a life full of upheaval. A superstar adored by millions, yet haunted by personal demons. Her name will always evoke admiration for her music, but it will also remind fans of the tempestuous, scandal-filled journey of a woman who lived and loved without restraint. Loretta Lynn, the coal miner's daughter who broke every rule. Loretta Lynn's story is one of the most remarkable in country music history. Born into poverty in the coal mining hills of Kentucky, she rose to become one of the most influential female voices in Nashville. Songs like You Ain't Woman Enough and The Pill weren't just chart toppers. They were cultural statements, challenging traditional ideas about women, marriage, and sexuality. But while Loretta became a champion for women in country, her personal life was a storm of love, betrayal, and scandal that made headlines for decades. Married at just 15 to Oliver Doolittle Lynn, Loretta endured a relationship as fiery as it was toxic. Their marriage, lasting nearly 50 years, was plagued by infidelity, abuse, and constant fights. Loretta herself admitted that Doolittle often strayed, and she didn't always remain faithful either. Nashville gossips frequently hinted at Loretta's rumored affairs, whispers that only fueled her reputation as a woman unafraid to play by her own rules. For some fans, it was shocking to see the coal miner's daughter embodying the same rebelliousness she sang about. Her music reflected her complicated views on love and desire. When she released Rated X, a song about divorced women being judged for pursuing new relationships, critics accused her of being scandalous. The Pill, her bold anthem about birth control, was banned from many radio stations but became one of her most iconic hits. These songs weren't just provocative. They mirrored Loretta's own tangled life, a blend of heartbreak, defiance, and survival. Behind the scenes, Loretta balanced motherhood to 6 children with the demands of stardom, all while navigating the rocky road of her marriage. Friends recalled that her love life was never simple, full of jealous fights, reconciliations, and the ever-present rumors of affairs. Yet Loretta refused to be shamed. She wore her life openly, turning every scandal into inspiration for her music. Loretta Lynn's legacy is more than her songs. She proved that women in country didn't have to be silent, submissive, or saintly. She embraced her flaws, her passions, and her scandals, and in doing so, she paved the way for future generations of female artists. For all the whispers about her private life, Loretta remains an enduring symbol of strength, rebellion, and the unapologetic pursuit of love and freedom. Wanda Jackson, the queen of rockabilly and country's untamed spirit. If there was ever a woman who blurred the lines between country, rock, and scandal, it was Wanda Jackson. Nicknamed the Queen of Rockabilly, Wanda stormed into the 1950s music scene with a fiery voice, daring style, and attitude that defied every Nashville tradition. While other women of the era were expected to be demure and wholesome, Wanda flaunted short skirts, red lipstick, and a rebellious spirit that made her one of the most talked-about performers of her generation. Wanda's career began in country, but it was her fusion of rock and roll that made her unforgettable. Touring with Elvis Presley in the mid-1950s changed her trajectory forever. Elvis encouraged her to experiment with rockabilly, and soon the two were rumored to be romantically involved. Though Wanda never confirmed the details, their close connection fueled endless speculation. At a time when Elvis was the ultimate heartthrob, being linked to him instantly gave Wanda a reputation as bold, daring, and more than a little scandalous. Her reputation didn't stop there. Wanda's image as a flirtatious, independent woman followed her throughout her career. Tabloids loved to speculate about her personal life, painting her as someone who lived just as wildly off stage as she did on it. In truth, Wanda reveled in the attention. She was one of the first women in country to openly embrace sex appeal, using her glamorous look and confident stage presence to stand out in a male-dominated industry. Songs like Fujiyama Mama and Let's Have a Party weren't just energetic, they were declarations of her untamed persona. Of course, such a reputation came with backlash. Traditional country fans and conservative critics often dismissed her as too wild or too fast. But Wanda didn't care. She had little interest in fitting into Nashville's box of propriety. Instead, she carved out her own space, one where women could be both talented and unapologetically sensual. That defiance made her a pioneer, not just musically, but culturally. Looking back, Wanda Jackson's legacy isn't only about her groundbreaking sound. It's also about the way she challenged stereotypes of what a female country artist could be. Her rumored affairs, her sultry image, and her refusal to play by Nashville's rules made her a scandal in her time. But they also cemented her as a trailblazer. Wanda wasn't just the queen of rockabilly. She was the embodiment of a woman unafraid to be promiscuous, glamorous, and powerful in a world that tried to tame her. Dolly Parton, country's glittering goddess and the rumors that never faded. Few women embody the glamour and mystique of country music like Dolly Parton. With her towering blonde wigs, dazzling gowns, and sharp wit, Dolly crafted a public persona that was larger than life. Behind her rhinestone-studded image stood one of the most gifted songwriters and performers Nashville has ever seen. Yet along with fame came whispers, stories of secret romances, flirtations, and an untouchable allure that made Dolly one of the most gossiped-about women in country history. Dolly married Carl Dean in 1966, and their relationship has been famously private. In fact, Carl almost never appeared publicly with her, sparking decades of speculation. Was their marriage real? Was Dolly unfaithful? The lack of answers only fueled curiosity. Over the years, Dolly was linked in rumors to numerous men in and out of the music industry, from fellow country stars to Hollywood figures. She laughed off the chatter, once joking that she had a heart big enough for everyone. Her image played into the allure. Dolly leaned into sex appeal in a way few women in country had before. While others tried to appear modest, Dolly proudly showcased her curves, saying she patterned her look after the town tramp she admired growing up. This blend of humor, self-awareness, and overt femininity made her irresistible to fans and irresistible to tabloid speculation. Songs like Jolene, with its tale of jealousy and temptation, seemed to mirror the rumors swirling around her life. Some even wondered if Jolene was inspired by one of Dolly's real-life romantic entanglements. The whispers only intensified as Dolly's star rose. Yet she never allowed gossip to overshadow her artistry. Instead, she cleverly turned it into part of her legend. Despite the constant speculation, Dolly has always insisted that her love life is far less scandalous than people imagine. Still, her flirtatious personality, close partnerships with male collaborators, and glamorous lifestyle kept the rumors alive for decades. She once admitted to having an emotional affair outside of her marriage, but never confirmed the salacious tales that fans love to repeat. What makes Dolly Parton's story so fascinating is how she transformed potential scandal into power. Rather than shrinking under the weight of gossip, she embraced it with humor and grace, creating an aura of mystery that remains to this day. Dolly's name may forever be tied to whispers of romance and promiscuity, but ultimately, she turned those whispers into part of the sparkle that made her an icon. Barbara Mandrell, the golden girl with a shadowed reputation. In the late 1970s and early 1980s, Barbara Mandrell reigned as one of country music's brightest stars. With hit songs like Sleeping Single in a Double Bed and her wildly popular TV variety show, Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell Sisters, she became a household name. To the public, Barbara was polished, glamorous, and every bit the girl next door Nashville wanted to showcase. But beneath the glittering image, her personal life was more complicated, filled with whispers of affairs, scandals, and behind-the-scenes drama that clashed with her squeaky clean persona. Barbara married her husband Ken Dudney at just 21, and their relationship seemed solid on the surface. However, rumors followed her as her fame skyrocketed. Her close working relationships with male collaborators fueled speculation in the press, and her flirtatious on-screen presence didn't help. Some fans and critics suspected Barbara was living a double life, America's sweetheart on television, but far more adventurous when the cameras stopped rolling. Nashville insiders loved to gossip about her supposed affairs, though Barbara consistently denied any wrongdoing. Her hit songs often added fuel to the fire. Tracks like If Loving You Is Wrong, I Don't Want to Be Right carried an edge of forbidden romance that made listeners wonder if the lyrics mirrored her real life. Barbara's emotional delivery gave weight to the speculation, making the lines between her stage persona and her private desires feel blurred. She was caught between two worlds, projecting family values while carrying an aura of hidden sensuality. The contrast was stark. On one hand, Barbara Mandrell was deeply religious and often emphasized the importance of morality and family. On the other, her image, glamorous, flirtatious, and drenched in Nashville's spotlight, fed a different narrative. Whether the rumors were true or exaggerated, they added a layer of intrigue to her career that fans couldn't ignore. By the late 1980s, Barbara began retreating from the music industry after a devastating car accident, which shifted public focus from her alleged scandals to her survival story. Yet the whispers never fully disappeared. For many, Barbara Mandrell represented the perfect contradiction. A woman who embodied both the innocence Nashville wanted to sell and the seduction it tried to hide. Today, she is remembered as a trailblazer, a crossover star who brought country into mainstream living rooms across America. But along with her dazzling career, Barbara Mandrell's name will forever carry the shadow of those tantalizing rumors that helped cement her place on this list of country's most provocative women. Patsy Cline, a voice of gold and a life full of whispers. When people think of Patsy Cline, they often remember her timeless voice, the aching beauty of Crazy, or I Fall to Pieces, and her tragic death in a 1963 plane crash at just 30 years old. But behind that angelic voice was a woman whose personal life was as fiery as her songs were tender. In the conservative world of 1950s and early 60s country music, Patsy stood out not only for her vocal power, but also for her uninhibited personality and rumored love affairs. Patsy married twice, and neither relationship was free of turmoil. Her marriage to Gerald Klein was short-lived, while her second marriage to Charlie Dick was both passionate and stormy. Friends recalled constant fights, reconciliations, and a chemistry that bordered on explosive. Patsy was never the quiet, submissive housewife. She was outspoken, strong-willed, and unafraid to challenge men, whether in her marriage or in the male-dominated Nashville industry. This boldness extended into her love life. Patsy was the subject of endless speculation, with whispers of affairs both inside and outside the music business. Her magnetic presence drew admirers, and she often reveled in the attention. Nashville insiders hinted that her close relationships with fellow performers sometimes crossed into romance, though few dared speak openly at the time. What made the rumors even juicier was that Patsy didn't shy away from bawdy jokes or flirtatious banter, often shocking those who expected her to be demure. Her songs, dripping with passion and heartbreak, only added to the mystique. When she sang about longing or betrayal, fans wondered if she was singing from lived experience. In an era when women in country music were expected to appear saintly, Patsy broke the mold. She smoked, she drank, she cursed, and she loved fiercely. She embodied desire and independence in a way that scandalized traditionalists but electrified audiences. After her untimely death, Patsy's reputation as a groundbreaking artist only grew, but the whispers about her personal life never disappeared. If anything, they became part of her legend. She remains a figure both sainted and scandalized, the voice that defined an era, and the woman who lived passionately, even recklessly, in her short time on Earth. Patsy Cline's story is a reminder that behind even the most angelic voice can be a life filled with fire, complexity, and controversy. Her legacy is not only in the songs she left behind, but also in the fearless way she embraced life and love, no matter how much gossip it stirred. June Carter Cash, the woman who loved boldly, known to millions as the devoted wife and musical partner of Johnny Cash, June Carter Cash was far more than just the woman standing by the man in black. She was a celebrated singer, songwriter, and actress in her own right, born into the legendary Carter family that helped lay the foundation for country music. Yet behind her wholesome image and gospel roots, June's love life was anything but quiet. Her journey through marriages, affairs, and scandal placed her squarely in the middle of Nashville's juiciest conversations. Before she ever met Johnny, June had already lived a colorful romantic life. She married 3 times, first to honky-tonk singer Carl Smith, then to Edwin Rip Nix, and finally to Johnny Cash. Her relationships often overlapped with rumors of infidelity, leaving Nashville buzzing. The affair that began with Johnny Cash in the early 1960s was particularly explosive. Both were married to other people when their romance ignited, and their passionate, turbulent connection became the subject of constant gossip. Their love story was as dramatic as any country song. Johnny, battling drug addiction and erratic behavior, leaned heavily on June, while she became both his lover and savior. To outsiders, June was seen as a homewrecker, blamed for breaking up Cash's first marriage. But to her fans, she was the woman who tamed a wild man. This duality only heightened her allure, saint to some, sinner to others. Even after marrying Johnny in 1968, June's life was far from scandal-free. Their marriage was marked by legendary highs and heartbreaking lows, fueled by Johnny's addictions and June's unwavering, sometimes enabling devotion. Nashville insiders whispered about their explosive fights and passionate reconciliations. June's sultry stage chemistry with Johnny, captured in songs like Jackson, mirrored their offstage intensity, keeping audiences guessing where the performance ended and real life began. Yet, June Carter Cash never apologized for living and loving boldly. She turned her so-called scandals into part of her story, one that resonated with fans because of its raw humanity. She wasn't just the saintly country wife or the villainous temptress. She was both and neither, a complex woman who followed her heart even when it led to chaos. Her legacy, cemented by her music and her role in Johnny's redemption, continues to shine. But woven into that legacy is the story of a woman who lived with passion, loved recklessly, and forever changed country music's image of what a woman could be. Kitty Wells, the trailblazer, with a quiet storm. Long before country music had Dolly, Tammy, or Loretta, there was Kitty Wells, the woman who cracked Nashville's male-dominated fortress wide open. With her 1952 hit, It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels, Kitty became the first female artist to score a #1 country hit, challenging the notion that women should remain silent about men's infidelity. While her public image was often tied to tradition and modesty, behind the scenes, Kitty's personal life carried more complexity than many realized, sparking whispers that would follow her throughout her career. Kitty married fellow musician Johnny Wright in 1937, and they remained together until his death more than 70 years later. On paper, it was a picture-perfect partnership, a rare example of stability in a world of broken marriages. But even in that long marriage, Nashville insiders claimed there were rocky periods filled with tension, jealousy, and rumored indiscretions. Some suggested that Kitty's success, especially as a woman in the 1950s, brought friction at home, and whispers of her own romantic dalliances made the rounds. Her music didn't help quiet the speculation. Songs like It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels struck directly at the hypocrisy of blaming women for men's straying, and many listeners assumed Kitty must have lived what she sang. The boldness of her lyrics, especially in an era when women were expected to be dutiful wives, added fuel to rumors that she was more rebellious in her private life than she let on. For a woman with such a seemingly wholesome image, Kitty was suddenly at the center of Nashville's gossip mills. Though Kitty never fed the press with salacious interviews or scandalous antics, she couldn't escape the whispers. Some painted her as a woman who quietly lived a double life, the saintly queen of country music on stage, and something much freer when the lights went down. Whether true or not, the contrast between her angelic reputation and the rumors of hidden passions only deepened her mystique. What's undeniable is that Kitty Wells changed country music forever. Her courage to sing openly about taboo topics made her both a pioneer and a lightning rod. Even if her personal life was far less wild than gossip suggested, Kitty carried the aura of someone who had lived through struggles, betrayals, and temptations. That authenticity gave her music its power. Today, Kitty Wells is remembered as the woman who opened the door for every female artist who followed. But part of her legend lies in the quiet storm of whispers about her life, whispers that ensured she would always be more than just a sweet country voice. Lynn Anderson, the Rose Garden Rebel. In 1970, Lynn Anderson became a household name when her smash hit, I Never Promised You a Rose Garden, topped charts worldwide. With her golden hair, radiant smile, and crossover success, she seemed to embody Nashville's dream of a wholesome, all-American country star. But behind the bright spotlight, Lynn's life was filled with passionate romances, failed marriages, and scandalous whispers that made her one of the most talked-about women of her era. Lynn was married twice, first to songwriter Glenn Sutton, a powerful figure in Nashville. Their union, though professionally fruitful, was marred by jealousy and infidelity. The The marriage eventually collapsed amid bitter disputes and public rumors of affairs on both sides. For a woman marketed as pure and approachable, the split painted Lynn in a far more complicated light. Her second marriage to Louisiana oilman Harold Spook Stream fared little better, as tabloids continued to buzz about Lynn's alleged dalliances and a personal life that seemed anything but stable. The gossip intensified because Lynn herself projected a glamorous, sometimes provocative image. While earlier female stars often leaned on modesty, Lynn embraced fashion-forward looks, high society parties, and a free-spirited lifestyle. She wasn't afraid of being photographed in situations that stoked the rumor mill, and Nashville insiders whispered that her romantic life was as colorful as her stage wardrobe. Some even suggested that Rose Garden, with its bittersweet message about love's imperfections, reflected her own tangled history. Her career also mirrored the turbulence of her private world. Lynn battled personal struggles, including brushes with the law and public scandals later in life, which added weight to the perception that she lived recklessly when the spotlight dimmed. Her fiery temperament, combined with her natural charisma, made her irresistible both to fans and to the gossip columns that thrived on her every misstep. Yet, through the highs and lows, Lynn Anderson never stopped commanding attention. She sold millions of records, appeared on countless TV specials, and was one of the first women to truly break country music into international markets. While Nashville sometimes frowned at her choices, the world couldn't look away. Lynn was glamorous, talented, and flawed, a mix that guaranteed fascination. Today, her story is remembered as both triumphant and tragic. Lynn Anderson gave the world a timeless anthem, but she also lived a life full of passion and scandal that kept her name in circulation long after her biggest hits faded. In the annals of country music, she remains not just the Rose Garden star, but also one of its most rebellious and provocative women. Dottie West, country's Scarlet Woman. Few women embodied both glamour and controversy in country music quite like Dottie West. With her fiery red hair, dazzling stage gowns, and a sultry voice that blended sweetness with seduction, Dottie became one of Nashville's brightest stars in the 1960s and 70s. She was celebrated for hits like Country Sunshine and her memorable duets with Kenny Rogers. But beyond the music, Dottie cultivated a reputation as one of country's most flirtatious and scandal-ridden figures, living a life that constantly kept her in the headlines. Dottie's rise coincided with a cultural shift in Nashville. While many female singers stuck to conservative images, Dottie embraced a more daring persona. Her glamorous outfits often pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable on stage, and her openly flirtatious charm made her both adored and criticized. Fans saw her as bold and modern, while traditionalists whispered about her private life with raised eyebrows. Married 3 times, Dottie's love life was as dramatic as any country song. Her first marriage to Bill West ended in divorce, amid speculation about affairs on both sides. She later wed drummer Byron Metcalf, but that too dissolved in scandal. Her final marriage to sound engineer Al Winters was equally stormy, plagued by financial and personal troubles. Along the way, Nashville insiders linked her romantically to numerous men, both within and outside the industry. The tabloids loved to call her country's Scarlet Woman, and Dottie did little to tone down the image. Her partnership with Kenny Rogers only added fuel to the fire. Though both denied a romance, their undeniable chemistry in songs like Every Time Two Fools Collide made fans wonder if their connection went beyond the stage. Dottie's fiery personality and her refusal to play by Nashville's unspoken rules meant the gossip never stopped. Tragically, her later years were marked by financial struggles and personal setbacks. Dottie's generosity and impulsive lifestyle left her bankrupt, and she often relied on friends to help her stay afloat. Yet even in hard times, she remained as glamorous and defiant as ever, clinging to the aura of a woman who lived and loved without regret. Dottie West's death in a 1991 car crash at age 58 cemented her as both a tragic figure and a legend. Today, she is remembered as a woman who brought sensuality and boldness to country music at a time when few others dared. Her voice and her scandalous reputation remain intertwined, ensuring that Dottie's name will always be associated with both brilliance and controversy. Jeannie C. Riley, the mini-skirted rebel of Nashville. When Jeannie C. Riley burst onto the country scene in 1968 with her smash hit Harper Valley PTA, she didn't just top the charts, she shattered expectations. Dressed in mini skirts and go-go boots, Jeannie looked more like a pop star than a Nashville traditionalist. Her image and music exuded rebellion and sensuality, instantly making her a lightning rod for attention. For many, she was the poster child of a new, daring era of female country singers. For others, she was scandal in high heels. The success of Harper Valley PTA, a song about a woman calling out small-town hypocrisy, seemed to mirror Jeannie's own life. Suddenly thrust into fame, she embraced a provocative stage persona that fueled endless speculation about her personal affairs. Nashville insiders whispered about her romantic entanglements, suggesting she lived as boldly off stage as she did on it. Jeannie never shied away from the attention. If anything, she leaned into the shock value, proudly flaunting her sexuality in an industry that preferred women to be demure. Her marriage to Mickey Riley, though lasting for decades, was far from free of turmoil. The tabloids loved to speculate about Jeannie's rumored affairs and flings, painting her as one of Nashville's most promiscuous stars. Whether true or exaggerated, these stories cemented her reputation as a woman unafraid to defy the rules. Unlike many of her peers who carefully guarded their reputations, Jeannie seemed to thrive on her bad girl image. Her flamboyant fashion choices also added fuel to the fire. At a time when most female country artists wore conservative gowns, Jeannie hit the stage in thigh-high boots and sequined mini dresses. The press couldn't get enough. And audiences were equally divided. Some thrilled by her boldness, others scandalized by her audacity. Nashville's old guard sneered, but Jeannie's fans adored her unapologetic confidence. In later years, Jeannie underwent a dramatic transformation, becoming a born-again Christian and distancing herself from her scandalous past. She spoke openly about her regrets, confessing that the wild lifestyle had taken a toll on her. Yet even as she embraced a new image, the memory of her earlier years as country's mini-skirted rebel remained. Jeannie C. Riley's legacy is one of contradiction. She was both a trailblazer who brought youth and sex appeal into country music and a cautionary tale about the cost of living in the fast lane. Her name will always conjure images of short skirts, fiery songs, and the tantalizing rumors that made her one of the most unforgettable women in Nashville's history.